Hey guys, it's Nate with Play Your Court. Today we're getting a serve lesson with Rafa. We're going to do a little analysis and the big changes that he made in order to turn his serve into the weapon that we see today. So young Rafa, every bit of 17, 18 on the left, and Rafa today at 34. Guys, stick around to the end because we're going to give you a link for a free serve course. All right, so let's dive in. Let's talk about rhythm first. And this is something that Rafa had issues with early on the serve. So here we can see the weight is on that front foot because the heel of his back foot is up. But something that was happening that disrupted his rhythm, if you put your attention to the front foot now, again, as his weight shifts back, his front foot was sliding and moving. All right, and this is tough. We really don't want that front foot moving, maybe just an absolute hair, but really not shifting as much as we saw here. So as we back it up, we can see that shift. All right, and this was a problem. All right, so Rafa was pinpoint, but not nearly of what we see today. There you can see that foot dragging forward. I know it goes into a different perspective here. Tough to get footage of Rafa, from a side view or anything when he was young. People didn't know he was going to be Rafa, right? But so let's go back for just a moment and let's take our attention to Rafa on the right, okay? And what we're going to see here is a rhythm that all pros use, not all, but the vast majority, right? And I'll talk about the two differences here in just a moment. So what Rafa here, he's front foot, back foot, front foot, all right? So the weight starts on his front foot, and as the racket moves back, you can see there his toe even goes up. The weight shifts to his back foot. Okay, so now as his tossing arm has started to climb, the weight will then shift again to his front foot. Okay, and then the pinpoint. All right, and this is a nice little rhythm here that we're going to see. So front foot, back foot, and then front foot, and then he comes to pinpoint. All right, but even if he was platform, we'd still want this cadence here, this rhythm, and he would just load from there because that's really what we want to start feeling. And so young Rafa, a little out of rhythm. That's why he had to make those changes early on. All right, so number two, let's talk about what's going on with the toss. All right, so let's start with Rafa. Let's start with young Rafa again. All right, so what we're going to see is a little bit of down together, up together. All right, so from here, Rafa's hitting arm and tossing arm are operating together. Okay, and what happens here is you're just losing this rear pelvic tilt. If we take our attention over to Rafa on the side, when Rafa's tossing arm is leading, you can see this nice line back, right? And this is really getting this rear pelvic tilt to where he's loading the hips. Now, here he's getting loaded, but you can see it's in a much different place, right? He's all the way back into his trophy position here, that being the trophy position, before he hits his rear pelvic tilt. And we're seeing here, Rafa's achieving it and loading much earlier because he's leading with that tossing arm. Okay, so the lesson here is we really want that tossing arm to lead, all right, as we can see on the right and working through. All right, so I think sometimes what happens, we think about putting the racket into a position, right? So like if you're focused on the racket getting into a trophy position, like we see here, right? Again, trophy position being this, all right? You can tell here this was mechanical where he was making sure he was getting into this position, all right? So let's talk about problem number three. Because of it being mechanical, there's a focus on putting the racket into a position. And on the serve, we want it to be fluid. We never want to put anything anywhere. We want there to be a sequence of events, right? A kinetic chain. All right. So what you're going to see is how loose Rafa, let's put the attention on Rafa's hitting hand. And, Milos Raonic made this famous with the strings up but he's not the only one that does it. Rafa's not as extreme as Milos, but here he has the strings facing up. And what I want you to pay attention to is here. Look how loose his wrist is here with the racket tip facing all the way down. And so as the energy comes forward, right, then the sequence happens again here. You can see how loose his wrist is. And here's the thing. If your wrist is loose, your arm's going to be loose. All right. So here this racket gets to work like a bullwhip. All right. And so at this point in this trophy stance, when Rafa is pushing up, right, the racket goes down. All right. And that's what we're seeing for big power. All right. It's this reverse effect, the cartwheel effect, if you will. All right. So he pushes up and the racket falls down. So here, young Rafa, all right, we just don't see it the same. All right. You can tell much, much more stiff through the wrist here. All right, and you can tell here the lack of bend in his arm. All right, you can just tell it's much, much stiffer. All right, so let's focus in here on Big Rafa again. All right, and put it all together. All right, so the weight starts on the front foot, weight goes to the back foot. Tossing arm leads, and the weight comes back to that front foot here in that pinpoint stance. Arm nice and loose. All right, back up just a little bit. And when Rafa is loaded down, I'm pushing up. All right, legs push up because of the load. The racket goes down. All right, so those are the three big changes that Rafa made on his serve. Okay, you can just tell from this image right here, there's some significant changes made, including that bicep. Dude got yoked. All right, but those are the three takeaways. Create rhythm on the serve, lead with your tossing arm, and keep the wrist of the hitting hand, keep the hand, the wrist nice and loose. That'll allow it to act like a bullwhip. And if your wrist is loose, it's going to be really hard for the arm to tighten up. All right, so guys, really hope you enjoyed this analysis. It's kind of before and after the history of the Nadal serve and the changes that were made. Guys, if you like this, hit the like button. If you feel like it'd help a buddy, make sure you share it. If you never want to miss a Play Your Court video, hit subscribe. And don't forget, check out the link below to get access to our free Serve Mastery course where you can learn in depth all the X's and O's of how to take your serve to the next level. I'll see you next time.